over something. I don't know if this was just a note somebody handed Todd that happened to be there, but I found it to be possibly, key evidence in this case. So I called the police and said, we're cleaning up the crime scene. This is still here. They said, oh, we'll come get it. Week goes by. I'm still looking at this thing. I call them. I said, you really ought to come look at this. Not Todd's writing. It seems to be somebody that regrets having done something. There's practically blood stains on it. It was so close to his head. It took them about 2 weeks, I think, before they finally came and got it. And to this day, I have no idea what they did with that. What they followed up, if they did any kind of fingerprint analysis. I have no idea. I should ask the FBI, actually, since they're in charge of the investigation. I should say. Cops didn't care of them. So if anybody out there ever hears somebody saying, hey, I did. Whoever has a tip, we're still looking.
Was it how long that Comic-Con was after his murder?
It was fairly shortly after this, yeah.
We walk in and Comic-Con's always been nice to me, but we weren't always the most well-received guests at Comic-Con for some reason.
Bring bands to the table.
Yeah, it's hard to believe, but we had publishers that we were just, people that we've known for years and start talking to them. I have nothing to do with your boss, I have an alibi, stop talking. It's just like, holy shit, right? Rock stars were like, it was because everyone was a suspect. It was...
Even in the comic press, Dennis Kitchen came out and said, quit talking to me, I didn't.
Right, yeah.
Did anybody here know Todd? Did anybody here meet Todd at all? Just curious. He's become kind of a mythical figure, I think, because he was really private, aside from being somewhat closeted, as Duane said. He was super private. Nobody could go to his house. I think I went there 2-3 times at most the whole time I knew him. But the last time I brought a girl with me, I didn't know he was gay, keep in mind. I brought a girl with me, and after they said, you can never come to my house again. And it wasn't until he died there, right? He didn't like that girl that I brought. I don't know. But he didn't let many people in his house, which narrows down the pool of suspects, by the way, for somebody that would have killed him in his bedroom. Just throwing that out there in case somebody's doing their own investigation.
Todd's living room was full of audio cassettes and of him singing. He would sit there and sing. I couldn't tell, but obviously there was
not just audio tapes, but videotapes.
He loved music, so.
But the cops didn't take any of that stuff. How weird is that, too? You've got this room full of videotapes that he made himself, audio tapes that he made himself. Cops weren't at all interested. And a lot of that stuff ended up getting thrown out, as far as I know. But there could have been evidence in there. You just don't even know.
He would make these speeches on your rights and freedom, and that's actually in the movie where, listen up. It's all like reverb. It's like he's in a
he actually did that before work every day. Did you know that?
Well, he broke out some show tunes. I know.
I never saw him do that for the crowd, but before work every day, he'd give like an inspirational speech every single morning, and end with, so we're gonna go there, we're gonna sell, you're doing the whole patent thing, That was a daily thing in Music Cave.
His music catalog would have that in every month. He'd always put something there inspirational or pointing out some injustice or something. So he loved to talk about stuff like that.
And he hated Tipper in the PMRC, which was what I thought was cool.
Yeah, that was, at least somebody said something.
Yeah, well, that was in his newspaper. He had written to Jello Biafra to write something for his paper, and instead of writing something, Jello wrote like a 3-page thing explaining why he couldn't actually write it.
Yeah, if you're a collector and you collect rock and roll comics, you have to look at the old Music Cave catalogs. And you'll even see some of the artists that ended up working for Rock and Roll Comics did sketches and advertising art in there. In a lot of ways, those old Music Cave catalogs were the prototypal Rock and Roll comics. Does anybody have any questions while we're going to cut us off fairly soon?
Jay, you mentioned that a lot of the comics were bad. What was the failure? Was it like trying to do a musical thing in a print medium, or what was the challenge?
It was the concept that we failed to grasp for the first year or so, I think, as far as getting a handle on how to tell these stories. And we hired a lot of rock artists and writers. Before we realized that this was going to be a going concern, we pretty well hired anybody that would send us a suitable sample. We'd get lucky sometimes. A guy like Scott Jackson, just on spec, sent a painting of the Rolling Stones. Todd liked it so much that he ended up being our cover artist for the next 2 years. But he would also hire, these guys who I won't name that would do a story or two that were just so rotten. And I became kind of the axe man when I took over. I got rid of most of those people. I tried to bring in some name stars. And that's when I think they started to get more consistently good. But There were some rotten ones, just through bad writing, bad art, bad storytelling. Yes?
Why is the guy with the neon shirt, why is his name card upside down?
I have dyslexia or something.
That's a very good question, though.
Come on up here and fix it for me. No, really, it's fine.
I was hoping somebody was going to ask that, because I wasn't going to. I was like, I look like an idiot, so thank you for that.
Thanks for telling me.
Yes.
Did you guys do an issue on the Who?
We did, actually, yeah. Todd wrote that, and it was drawn by Tom Luth, who was the first star that we ever hired. Before that, we had just hired anybody that could hold a pencil, basically. But Tom Luth, who at the time I think was inking Brew the Wanderer, and he'd done a lot of Marvel and DC books.
Coloring too, right?
Coloring too, yeah. He worked for Ollie Optics, actually. But yeah, he got a hold of us and said he really liked the Who, and that's what we wanted to do. That's probably the first rock and roll comic that was done by suggestion, because Todd wanted a guy with a name like Tom Luth doing work for us. And that's how that book came to be. It's not a great book, but it's pretty good. There's some good stuff in it. You might be able to find it like on eBay. It's fairly cheap because it's fairly common.